Thanks for coming in today. See if we can get this going here. It's already telling me stream is unstable. Great start. Alright, we'll have to see how the internet plays along tonight or not. But thanks for coming in today, everybody. We are on the ground at Farmingdale Republic. It is Kilo Fox Romeo Golf, and we are going to do some private pilot maneuvers in our beautiful 152. See if I remember anything at all from my CFI days. See if I remember how to do any of these maneuvers. So the plan is going to be to do some slow flight, some power off stalls, some power on stalls, steep turns, an emergency descent, turns around a point, S-turns, and then we'll go do a landing at Bayport before coming back into Farmingdale. So that's kind of the plan this evening. We'll see how it goes. Right now, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how it goes. Right now, the sim is already struggling, just pissing me off. I don't know why. Just momentarily lapses, though. It might just be because of Rex weather force, since I do have the rear weather up. I do want the wind. That's a big thing, as I want that wind, because that's going to be a factor in terms of how we're doing our ground reference maneuvers. The wind plays a big role in that in terms of the upwind, the downwind, and all those things. And it's a big part of the training. So the fact that it's actually pretty gusty, not exactly a bad thing. It'll actually help us to kind of get a good feel on, exactly, how these ground reference maneuvers should go. So first of all, Nick Resler, Kenny Munster, thanks for coming in today. Good to see both of you in the chat. Let's go ahead and get on into the aircraft here and get it going. Make sure we turn the old fuel pump on here. Prop full, everything. Clear prop. Okay. Why are my frames taking a huge hit? I really hope it's not active sky weather force that's causing this issue, because if it's weather force, that's not good. We kind of need the real weather for this tonight.
November Juliet 22, New York. Eddie here.
Hello from Riddle, Nick Gresel says. Well, appreciate you being here, buddy. Thank you for coming in today, as always.
November Juliet 22, New York.
Do have some ATC courtesy of New York Center right now. We'll be talking to him for coverage at Farmingdale Republic, KFRG, since it is a towered field. Alright, so we've got the airplane all started up. Everything looks good. Nice little wood trim panel that we got going on here.
Static. I'm not sure if your microphone is muted or not.
Plenty of gas. Everything looks good in terms of the gauges. So we should be all set to go. Is being an instrument rated cool, or is it boring? I don't really know how to answer that, to be honest with you, man, because it's something that you need in order to get your ATP, really. So I don't know how to answer that at all. Sorry.
Good evening, New York Center. This is JetBlue 168, climbing through 31 through 35.
JetBlue 168, New York Center. Good evening.
Alright. Airplane's ready to go. Let's start moving here. Yeah, those ground guys have got no respect for anything that's going on around them in this sim whatsoever. It's pretty funny. I really hope that the sim isn't stuttery all night long. I know that my GPU is apparently taking a beating right now for whatever reason, even though I'm not running anything different than normal. There was an update to Rex Weather for us, and hopefully that's not what's bogging me down here.
And New York Center, do you mind if we change our final for probably going to be 330? So I think we're pretty heavy at the moment.
Civil 168, that's not a problem. Contact level 330.
Roger, we'll go to 330 for JPLogistics there.
We're going to hold here for a second. We'll talk to New York Center here. Alright, should be all set. I'm just checking a few things, chat. I apologize. Give me 1 second here. Make sure I'm all good to go. Looks like I should be.
Number 426 Mike Romeo, contact New York 120.4. Talking a bit.
Contact New York 120.4, November 65 Romeo.
Center, good evening. Cessna 124, my Charlie on the ground at Republic. Like taxi, VFR departure to the southwest. Excuse me, southeast.
Mike Charlie, New York, good evening. 2 questions, please. Do you request flight following, and do you intend on entering the Bravo?
Negative to both of those, and I'm sorry, the request is going to be for a southeast departure for 4 Mike Charlie.
For my Charlie, Roger, Southeast is our request on a 1-4 taxi via Alpha.
1-4 via Alpha, 4 Mike Charlie. It's the wind. Actually,
I'm sorry, let's do 3-2 via Alpha cross 1-9er.
just about to ask about that. 3-2 via Alpha cross 19, Cessna 124 Mike Charlie. Yeah, 1-4 wouldn't make sense with the wind, chat. Not at all. Do I enjoy flying with Hazard at all? No, I enjoy it very much, Nick. I enjoy all the aspects of flying. What is going on with the freaking vehicle thing right here? Jesus. I'm gonna go ahead and get past that real quick. Good lord. I don't know if there's actually snow on the ground or not right now, Republic, because that hasn't snowed recently as far as I know, so I don't think there would be. But the sim's putting a little out there, that's fine. Gives us a nice little visual effect, I suppose. Nothing wrong with that. Cleared across the runways, so we cleared our right and left.
Civil 168, cross news and maintain flight level 270.
We'll go all the way to the end here. We actually will pull up into the run-up area, and we'll do a quick run-up. Make sure everything's going to be good to go here before we eventually go out and do our maneuvers. And again, I do apologize. It appears that with the Rex Weather Force update, that every now and then when it injects some weather, it does kind of bog my system down a little bit, so I was occasionally getting a little bit of lag. I'm actually not dropping frames yet on the stream, which is good, so it's just actually lag in the sim, it's frames per second, which is, you know, that's different than normal. Usually it's my stream that's actually just freaking losing it because of the internet, but hopefully, fingers crossed, we actually have decent internet.
Good evening to the 262 Heavy on the ground at JFK with Bravo IFR to Perry.
If it seems like I'm lagging behind or if the stream ends up buffering, just hit the refresh button and it should kind of catch you up to where the, you know, whenever the stream gets caught up, if I do have those frame rate drops,
Ready vectors, Merit,
or those drop frames, if you will.
Then it's filed. Climb via
Unfortunately, I do expect it to just be something that I continue to deal with
7101.
in the meantime, because Spectrum is terrible.
Alright, cleared to go.
Because my system is apparently getting bogged down by a few things now. Computer's not as new as it used to be.
Mike So the 262 Heavy, thanks for your back.
It's a big thing when you're doing a run-up chat. You always want to turn into the wind.
To the altimeter.
You want to, as best you can, get your nose in the wind. So the wind's 330. That's going to be close enough here.
We got Bravo.
So we'll set the parking brake.
And 31 left for departure. They're gonna do some kilo.
We're going to run this up about
choice,
2,000 RPM.
Don't matter to me. I'm running pretty late.
All right, 31 left the kilo echo's fine. As long as I can set the takeoff distance available, I can get it for you if you need it.
We'll do each. If we look down here at the key, I'll use my little yoke, my alpha yoke. You're going to test the left mag. You're going to notice a little bit of drop in RPM. Put it back to both. It'll come back up. You test the right mag. Get that little bit of drop in RPM. And you're back to both. And now we'll check the mixture like that. And then we'll check the carb heat as well. You should see a drop in RPM when we pull the carb heat out, which we do. Put that back in. Bring the power back. That's a run-up, chat. Simple and clean. Easy run-up for the little Cessna 152. And then we can remove the parking brake. And we can taxi to the end of runway 32 now, because we're going to be ready to go here. Easy peasy. Eric Flight, thank you for the 4-month resub. I appreciate it, sir. Thank you for coming in today. See if I remember any of my private pilot skills. Cessna 124 Mike Charlie's ready short of 32.
Then 124 Mike Charlie, roger. Right downwind departure is approved. The wind 34012, gust 19er, runway 32, clear for takeoff.
Right downwind departure, 32, clear for takeoff. Cessna 124 Mike Charlie. Yeah, you don't want to blow anybody around either. You're absolutely right on the run-up. But you also want to get your nose there into the wind.
Near center, good evening.
Ooh, hard to find the center line with snow there, but let's go.
3000. Depart Rhymes heading 200 and report shipping point in sight.
Let's just do a normal takeoff.
We'll need the heading after Rhymes and report
and we're off.
The shipping point in sight.
Yes, this is that new JPLogistics 152 mod. I'm kind of sad that they don't have all the liveries anymore in this mod.
Frequency change approved. Good night.
Go to Unicom. Thank you for the service. You have cool 168.
Up, up, and away.
An aircraft with a VFR request calling. Go ahead.
Issue 412, we're at Poughkeepsie with local weather. VFR departure westbound to join the Hudson River southbound.
NG 412, roger, thanks.
Alright.
And do you request
Clear
flight
the right.
following or
Start our right crosswind for the right downwind departure.
Negative. Vinci 412.
Vinci 412, roger. Runway. Give me 1 second, please.
We're a helicopter, Vinci 412.
Oh, yeah, should have read that. Okay, do you intend departing from the ramp area there, or would you like to taxiway a runway?
Present position departure.
And we'll join our downwind now.
Alright, Vinci 412, departure from the ramp area is at your own discretion.
And we're going to keep climbing. We're going to climb up to 3,500, chat, to start for our maneuvers. Nice, safe altitude.
We'll report airborne. Thank you, Vinci 412.
Point ourselves towards the Capture Bridge, Capture Monument, which is going to be right out here, chat. That's going to take us into the south practice area that we used to use at Farmingdale. We have the north practice area, which is over the Long Island Sound, and the south practice area out over the ocean here.
Mike Charlie, frequency change approved. Have a good night.
Free change approved for Mike Charlie.
New York Center 70642.
So we can switch over to Unicom. And like I said, we're just going to keep this climb coming here to 3,500, and we'll use that as kind of our starting altitude for the maneuvers. And then when we get out over the water, out over the ocean, we will start with slow flight as our first maneuver. Isn't it a bit dangerous? Or, I mean, we're not going to go that far away from the coast, Nick Reslow. One of the nice things about Long Island is that you have pretty much a shoreline the entire length of wherever you're going, whether you're on the North Shore or the South Shore. So you have all that beach that you can land on. You have beaches, you got the parking lots for all the beaches and everything. So Long Island's actually a very convenient place to kind of do the maneuvers out over the water there, because as long as you don't go too far off the coast, you have plenty of room to glide back to the coastline and do a landing on the beach if you were to lose an engine. But that's something we'll talk about later on. Don't worry, we'll get back to that. We'll talk about that a little bit later on in the stream when we go through an emergency descent. Or not necessarily an emergency descent, but a simulated engine failure, if you will. So you really actually can't pull a Sully in the 152 because of the fixed gear, Kenny Monster. An airplane with fixed gear is not ideal for landing on water because the airplane will trip over itself. You'll land on the gear and it'll kind of like flip and roll nose over and all that. It'll kind of trip over itself. So it's actually not ideal to have a fixed gear aircraft landing in the water. It's not a very high chance of survival. But yeah, if you're going to go, you don't want to take anyone with you. So if it's a choice between water and houses, then you're going to, the right thing to do is to take the water. Sim's painting me a snow-covered Long Island. Like I said, I don't know if there's any actual snow on the ground right now currently on Long Island, because it doesn't really snow a whole lot around here, but Sim making it look pretty at least. You can see every once in a while the Sim's doing a little skip. So for once it's not the stream, it's actually just the Sim. And we are in the New York area, so it is a high density area, so guess not super surprising in the end if it's getting just a little bit bogged down here and there. Alright, so the thing that Eric showed me, and I'm going to show you guys here in a second as we kind of cruise out over the water, said we should do these maneuvers at 2300 RPM for the most part, but I've found that 2200 RPM to get you closer to that 90 knots that it was looking for. So I'm going to try and get ourselves stabilized here for about the 90 knots, 2200 RPM as we get out over the ocean. And then once we get out of the ocean, we'll start the maneuvers. So here's the thing I'm talking about now that Eric Flight showed me. We've got this little in-flight pilot training program, whatever, 152. So before every maneuver, we're going to make sure we have our seatbelts on, fuel on, mixture rich, landing light on, engine gauges green and normal. So that should all be the way, that should all be fine and dandy from the start. Everything's going to just stay on as it should the whole time here. No reason to have the mixture leaned out at only 3,500 feet. We're probably not going to go much higher than that for anything we're doing. So the first maneuver I am going to do is slow flight. And the big thing with all the maneuvers that we're going to do, Chad, is we want to make sure that we do our clearing turns, because we are VFR and we are not going to be with any kind of flight following, just because I don't really feel like dealing with the radio chatter right now while I'm doing this. So that's going to be a big thing, is we're going to have to make sure we do our clearing turns to make sure that the south practice area is clear of any traffic so that we don't crash into anyone. It's a big thing with especially newer students, is getting them in the habit of doing those clearing turns. And then obviously min altitude for these stalls, slow flight, all this kind of stuff, 1,500 feet for safety. Like I said, we're starting at 3,500 feet, so we're good. So when we go into the slow flight, the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to bring the power down to 1,700 RPM, turn the carb heat on because we are going to be going really slow. We don't want to ice up the engine. Flaps extend to increments all the way to full, which is 30 degrees. It says pitch to maintain above stall horn. I was always taught go right to the stall horn for the slow flight, so we'll go and ride the horn. And increased power is necessary. It's going to take way more when I was testing this earlier than 2,000 RPM to hold altitude, and you guys will see. So this is definitely some simisms that we're going to incur here doing this slow flight. But alright, let's go ahead, and we're out over the ocean now, over the shoreline here, as you guys can see. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start my clearing turns. So you want to go 90 degrees to the left and then 90 degrees back to the right for these clearing turns. So clear left. Start my clearing turns here. Again, we're keeping an eye out the windows. We're looking for any kind of traffic. And I'm going to cut this one short just because I want to end up on a south heading. So I'll clear to the right, turn to the right here. And again, we're just looking out all around us It's a little bit harder in a high wing to kind of look for traffic above, but we're looking all around us here for traffic as best that we can before we start our maneuvers. Alright, here's about our south heading. So I'm going to try my best to maintain the private pilot tolerance levels for the maneuver. Tolerances for slow flight are plus and minus 10 degrees a heading, plus and minus 100 feet on altitude, and the airspeed, again, I'm just going to ride the stall horn, which is what we're going to be looking for. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull my power back about 1700 RPM, and we're just going to slowly let that air bleed off. Again, we don't want to go too crazy now and just pitch up, because then again, you want to maintain altitude while you're doing this. So I'm going to use a lot of nose up trim here. You're going to see that airspeed just going to start to slowly bleed off. I can get my first notch of flaps in. As we get slower here, I'll get another notch of flaps in. And now we'll get the final notch of flaps in, so we're fully configured. Again, trying to maintain that altitude and that heading. And I'm going to go, like I said, pretty much right for the horn. So keep that nose coming up. Again, a lot of nose up trim. There's the horn, so I'm going to increase the power now. This is going to help me maintain my altitude. And you see already that the sim kind of makes the airplane as you would in real life. It starts to get pretty sluggish and harder to control. I'm already busting my plus or minus 10 on the heading right now, so definitely a little bit on the rough start here. And I'm also was not putting in enough right rudder. That's the big thing also, because of that P factor and this slow speed, is you really need that right rudder in. So I gotta put in more right rudder, and you can see how much power I need to maintain the altitude. That's a simism, because in the real airplane I don't think you would need, I mean, I'm practically almost full power just trying to maintain the altitude. So a little bit rough in that respect. But now you would do climbs, descents, and turns in the airplane here while you're in the slow flight. So I'm going to clear left. I'm going to turn to the left to a 090 heading. And when you're in slow flight, you want to try and keep your turns at a standard rate. So I'll zoom out so we can see that, and you can see again also, and it's not as easy in the sim as it looks, because it's not exactly 100% accurate in terms of how the airplane performs. Roll it out here. We'll do another left turn so we don't get too far away from the coast. I'll go to about a north heading. It's very difficult to maintain the standard rate in the sim when you're doing slow flight. This thing really does kind of get squirrely and want to get away from you, more so than I believe the real airplane would. But alright, here's a north heading, so we'll roll out on that. I'm going to try and get the airplane to climb up a little bit here. Back to our 3,500. And then you add power to climb while holding the same pitch, and then you would just reduce power to descend. But again, because the sim is not really letting me climb even at max power here, you know, that's more just a simism. But let's say if we wanted to descend, let's say we want to go down to 3,200 feet. What I'll do is, again, I'll leave that pitch in, and I'll just let the airplane slowly begin to descend down to that 3,200 feet. And you're just kind of riding the horn the whole way. Can get quite annoying pretty quickly, that stall horn, can it? And then once you get to your altitude, you want to slowly bring that power in. You're going to need more rudder as you do it, because you're going to start to get more of that P factor coming back into play. And then you can do climbing turns, descending turns, all of those different things as well, while in this slow flight configuration. So you'll do, you know, climbing left turn, descending right turn, all those different things that the instructor will want to see, and then eventually the examiner will want to see. So that's slow flight for you right there. So now what we're going to do is, just because it's convenient, and because we're already pretty much set up, we're going to go right into a power off stall. Because we're pretty much already configured. We got the flaps full, we're already at a reduced airspeed, the carb heat is on, and everything is all set in terms of that respect. So what we're going to do here is I'm just going to now kind of lower the nose a little bit, because when you're doing the power on off stall, you do want to kind of be starting at your approach speed. So whatever you would normally approach at, in this case it would be roughly 50 to 60 knots. And then you'll pull the power to idle, and you're just going to continue to flare the airplane like you're doing a flare for landing, trying to maintain that altitude until eventually you stall out. So right here, I'll pull the power. And to recover, I'm going to lower the nose, increase the power, turn the carb heat off, and get the flaps 1 notch. Those are the immediate things that I'm going to do first. So there's the stall. Positive rate, you get the flaps up to 10 degrees, and above 60 knots we'll get the flaps up. We'll get back up to that altitude of 3,200 feet that we were at originally. So I'm just going to level at 3,000. It's a nice round number, and that was the stall. Why don't we do that one more time, why don't we? So I'm going to pull the power back now. Let's do more clearing turns. So I'm going to clear left. We'll do another clearing turn here real quick to the left, face west, before we do this next power off stall, just so we can give you guys another example here. We look clear out here still. I didn't see any traffic. So on about a west heading now, we're going to set up again. So I'm going to pull that power back about 1700 RPM, and we're going to reset as if we're doing kind of an approach landing, and we'll do another power off stall. And again, all you're doing is you're just letting the airplane slow down on its own, maintaining your altitude, getting those flaps in increments all the way to 30 degrees, about 60 to 50 knots when we're at our normal, what would be approach to landing speed. We'll pull the power, and we'll just kind of maintain our altitude until it stalls, and then we'll recover. Alright, so we're fully configured now. We'll get the carb heat out, and now we'll just go idle. Again, like we're flaring to land. Here's a stall horn. There's the stall. Lower the nose, full power, carb heat off. First notch of flaps. Positive rate, get the second notch of flaps out. And above 60, flaps all the way up. Climb back to our original altitude. Alright, so I'm going to do a 180 degree turn to the right next, and that'll be our clearing turn to set up for a power on stall. Power on stall a little bit different. Alright, we'll clear to the right, start our clearing turn to the right. Obviously, power on stall simulating if you were to stall on a takeoff, instead of as if you were to stall on an approach to landing. So it's going to be a clean setup. We're just going to pull the power back and let it go until we get to about our VX speed, and then we're just going to pitch the power full and pitch up. And the Cessnas have a tendency to dip a wing on a power on stall, kind of almost like getting you into a spin. So we're going to have to use rudder to kind of counteract that, make sure we're keeping our ailerons level. And again, the same way to recover from the stall is going to be to reduce the pitch, keep that speed full, and pick up enough airspeed to eventually climb out and get back without putting ourselves into a secondary stall. So here we go. We're on our east heading. I'm going to slow down until we get to about our VX, and then I'm going to pitch up. And you do have to do a pretty significant pitch up to kind of get it to go on this accelerated stall here with the full power. So let's go ahead and see if I can produce a decent one for you guys. So right about here, we'll go full power. There's the stall. Lower that nose, get the nose back up. Reduce that descent rate. We've got the power. Let's get ourselves a positive rate. And we'll climb right back out. So the sim has a weird stalling characteristic with this power on stall. It doesn't exactly do it the way the real airplane would. It's way too aggressive when it does the power on stall in terms of how much it breaks down with the wing into the nose. Like the wing will usually break on a 152 when you're doing a power on stall, but the sim I feel like is way more aggressive with the brake and the nose down than it would be in the real airplane. But we will try one more time. So I'm going to get the power out here again, and we'll do another power on stall here. And we're still clear to our left. We're still clear to our right. Can only imagine what the center controller sees that what we're doing right now in terms of our flight path. That's probably very entertaining. But let's go ahead and get that climb going again. There it goes. Yep, see, it's really aggressive on that pitch down in the sim. It would definitely not be that aggressive on the nose down for an accelerated stall in the real airplane. I will say it didn't break as hard that time on either wing, which was a little bit more realistic. So that one was probably a better power on stall than the first one. I was probably keeping my ailerons a little bit more stable. But all right. Obviously, yeah, too, in real life, you probably have a little bit of a buffet. Again, the sim probably doesn't simulate that very well, unfortunately. Obviously, not being a perfect thing. You might not get a good simulation of a buffet in Flight Sim 2020 with this aircraft. So, again, it kind of is what it is in that respect. So I'm going to go ahead and get myself down to 3,000 feet here, Chad, and we're going to set up for some steep turns. And I'm just going to make a left turn for my clearing turn, heading back to the west to set up for the steep turns. So I'm going to clear left. We'll start our clearing turn here. Look for our traffic. See if we find any out here. I still think we're the only aircraft out here. If I look on VATSIM, yeah, we're pretty much the only aircraft that's out in this area doing maneuvers right now. In real life, it would probably be pretty busy in terms of aircraft doing maneuvers. And in real life, I also would have flight following out in the practice area here with New York Approach, just to have an extra set of eyes on me, especially on a busy day with all the other Farmingdale airplanes and everything that would be out in the south and north practice areas. G-Nice for you, thanks for coming in today. You're watching me practice some private pilot maneuvers on Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 in the old 152 here. Again, this is a modded 52, the JPLogistics Cessna 152 mod for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. Alright, there's our clearing turn. I did gain a little bit of altitude. We're going to get back down to 3,000 feet. And we're going to do some steep turns. So steep turns. 45 degrees is the private pilot bank, so we're going to try and hold 45 degrees to the left, do a full 360, try and maintain our altitude, and then again a full 360 degree turn to the right. We'll roll right into the one to the right after you do the one from the left. You kind of want to do it in quick succession. So if we look at the steep turn here, obviously we've completed our clearing turns. We're above 1,500 feet. We do have like a landmark horizon out here. We've got the shoreline that we're going to use kind of as our baseline. So we do have a reference in terms of the ground. The maneuver, again, I found that about 2,200 RPM is going to be better than 2,300 RPM in the sim. Airspeed roughly 90 knots, might be a little bit faster. And then again, we're going to increase the power as we are in this turn because the aircraft's going to need more airspeed to maintain altitude, and you're going to need to have a little bit of back pressure when you're doing these steeper turns. So we're going to try and be within plus or minus 10 degrees when we roll out. Altitude plus or minus 100 feet. Airspeed plus or minus 10. And again, 45 degrees for private bank is what we're going to shoot for in terms of tolerances. So let's go ahead and give this a shot. We are clear to the left. Let's roll in to the left. And we'll roll in past 30 degrees. We'll bump up that power. And now we're trying to hold that 45 degree bank. And you can see we're losing a little bit of altitude there, so I'm just going to pitch that nose up just a little bit to kind of maintain our altitude. Keep that 45 degree bank in there. Again, I also have to keep an eye on my heading, because when we start to get about within 20 to 30 degrees of our west heading, I want to start to roll this out, smoothly roll this out, so that we end up back on that west heading. So here we go, and then right about here, I'm going to slowly roll the airplane out and pull that power back. And now we roll right into the right, so we're clear to the right, and we'll roll right into the steep turn to the right. Right to our 45-degree bank, we'll increase that power. Keep that nose a little bit up so that we don't lose altitude. These are already better steep turns right now than when I was practicing them earlier off the stream, so I'm actually pretty happy with this. Coming through, that sun glare can be a distraction, especially when you're doing this. Coming up here, we'll start to roll the airplane out. We'll get that power back. And there we go. A couple of steep turns right there. That was actually pretty freaking good. Better than I did earlier. Hey, the Aviator, thanks for coming in today. Yeah, I'm actually very happy with those, chat. We'll do one more again, just so you guys can see it. What we'll do this time actually is we'll go on our north heading so that we'll have the actual shoreline as a full reference for us to make it easier for ourselves to roll out. But again, I would say that I'm very happy with those steep turns that I just did. Sometimes in real life, and again, you can't get any of the feeling obviously in the sim, but in real life, sometimes if you do a steep turn well enough, you'll actually hit a little bit of your own wake turbulence when you roll out on that after the 360-degree turn. I've had that happen a few times, so let's go ahead and do it one more time. We're clear to the left, we'll roll in, past 30 degrees, we'll bump that power up. Try and keep holding that 45-degree bank. Get that nose back just a little bit. You can see the airplane wanting to sink on me, so I got to get a little bit more back pressure in here, a little bit more, a little bit more. Not too much because you don't want to go above your altitude either, so you have to kind of play that game, adjusting that pitch to hold what you want. Again, we're rolling out on north, so there's about 30 degrees. We'll slowly start to roll out. Power's coming back out, and right there. Yeah, that's another really good one. And then we'll clear to the right. Oh, lost a little bit of altitude while I was looking to the right, so I'll pick that up as I roll into the next one here. Again, trying to just keep that nose, almost trying to split the horizon with the nose is what you're really trying to do here. To maintain that altitude in the steep turns. And then here you go, roll out. Rolled out a little bit early on that one, chat, a little bit early, but otherwise still not very bad at all. Josh0733, thanks for coming in today, good to see you. Alright, so there's our steep turns. So far we've done slow flight, power off stalls, power on stalls, a couple of steep turns. The next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to do a simulated engine out, chat. And that's going to kind of get us down to an altitude where we can set up to do our ground reference maneuvers. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the power. And, oh, we've lost our engine. So we're going to pretend we lost our engine. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the carb heat on just so we don't get any carb ice while we're doing this. And we're going to pitch for the best glide in the 152. I was looking online. The only number I could find for best glide really was about 61 knots. So we're going to go for about 61 knots here. And we're going to try and make it back to our shoreline here. We might have gone a little bit too far from the shoreline to actually make it back in this emergency descent. So I might have goofed here a little bit by going too far from the shoreline. But we'll see how this 61 knots holds us here as we kind of glide towards the shoreline. So the big thing, we know that the wind is about a 330, 340 heading. So we want to always try and land into the wind. So if I'm going to use the shoreline as my point, which I'm going to try and land somewhere right around here if I can make it, which right now doesn't look too promising because I put myself way further from the shore than I thought. But we're going to try and land going to the left so that we can be into the wind, because you always want to land with a headwind. Let's see if I can get this thing to glide all the way to the shoreline. I really did put myself in a tight spot here by going as far away from the shoreline as I did. I didn't realize I was far out as I was. So we'll see what we can do. Still got 2,500 feet roughly to play with. every now and then also, chat, you want to put the throttle up, bring it back out, and that is to prevent shock cooling the engine. If you keep the engine idle for too long, especially when it's really cold out like this, you could potentially shock cool the engine and then it might fail for real. So it does say that you always want to kind of just give it a little bit of juice every now and then when you're performing this little maneuver so you can prevent that shock cooling. You do not want to glide with flaps. Nope, you would go clean when you're gliding at your best glide speed. The only time you would add flaps is if you think you're all lined up and ready to go for a landing, then you could add flaps kind of at your leisure to set up for what would be maybe a normal landing. But otherwise, yeah, you really don't want to, no on the flaps there when you're using your best glide when you have a simulated engine out or a real engine out, God forbid. Not quite sure I'm going to make it back to the shoreline, chat. I didn't realize how far out I was. But we'll play it out for now. Doesn't help that we pretty much got a direct headwind on the nose here. So we are not really making a whole lot of ground up. Again, I'm going to make sure I don't shock cool the engine. Maybe even cheat a little bit here, give myself a little bit of chance of actually making the shoreline. So obviously in real life I would not take my students that far off the shoreline and then do that. I would have gotten my students a lot closer to a point where they could actually make an emergency landing. You know, and I also, just for our own safety, I would have not gone that far off of the shoreline because I would not, let's say the engine did fail for real, I would want to make sure that I, you know, both me and the student have a chance to kind of survive something like that. So I definitely fouled up here a little bit by going as far from the coast as I did while we were doing our practice maneuvers. So I realized that I'm not going to make it. So I'm actually going to cheat here a little bit. And I'm going to put the power in and we're going to kind of hold this altitude and get myself a little bit closer to the shoreline before then taking that power back out and continuing the simulated engine out. So we're going to do a little cheating here because there is absolutely no chance I was going to make it back to the shore for as far out that we did. Again, in real life, like I said, if I was with a student or if I even was by myself, there's no way that I would have taken myself that far from the shoreline. You know, in the sim, it's kind of hard to get that. You can't really gauge it as well in the sim as you can in the real airplane. But definitely went way, way, way too far out from the shoreline in the sim this time. I'm not going to slew only because I am on the VATSIM network doing this, so. And you definitely, like I said, you can't sully a 152 Kenny Monster because the tricycle gear, it's fixed gear, it's just going to make you trip over. There's no way you can sully this airplane. So, let's see, I think this should be close enough to get us the rest of the way. So let me get that power back out and go back for my best glide. And we'll pretend that this is where I was the whole time, chat, as I finish my simulated engine out. So pitch for 60. If you're training that, would you do, not only if you're doing a power off 180, which is a commercial maneuver, but this is something that you would just do if you're out in the practice area. You would just pull the power on your student and you would tell your student, all right, you've lost your engine, what are you going to do? And you want to see if your student's going to be able to kind of maintain that best glide speed and be able to, you know, survive, be able to find a place to land where they can, you know, make a reasonably, you know, potentially landing where they could, you know, survive, save themselves. Definitely not going to pull the mixture. That's also not what you do not do that when you're simulating an engine out. So again, chat, we're going to pretend that this is where we were all along. I'll line myself up for the shoreline here. Again, nose headwind. We got about a 330 degree heading on the wind, so I'm going left instead of right. If the wind was from the east, I would be landing to the right, but the wind is a little bit more from our west, so I'm going to land towards the west because you always want to land into the wind, even when you're doing, you know, simulated engine out. Again, if all else fails and you have to land a certain direction, the idea is just to survive. But when we are teaching the students, we're looking to see if they can make these decisions to land in a certain spot and go in the right direction with landing into the wind. And that's kind of also what the check airman is going to be looking for in these things. Okay, so now we've got ourselves lined up with the shoreline. I'm not going to go much lower than this because you're technically not supposed to go lower than 500 feet doing that maneuver. So we'll go put the power back in. We're going to climb up to 1,000 feet and get ready for our ground reference maneuvers. Yeah, basically what I would do, good fixins, I'd take the throttle, pull it to idle, and say, you've lost your engine, what are you going to do? Or where are you going to land? And then let the student, the student has to learn. There is a checklist also usually that you would follow, but obviously I didn't run through any kind of checklist. There would be a checklist that they would have to do, not only while, maintaining best glide and finding where to go, but there would be a checklist that you'd have to follow as well for a potential engine out situation. And usually it's just kind of a walk-through, read-through, because you're not actually going to do the checklist unless the engine was to fail. So let's make our way towards the bridge over there, chat. And the reason why we're going to do that is because now I want to kind of go, we got the shoreline right here. That'll work perfectly fine. See if we can find a really good defined point on the ground here that we can use for turns around a point. And so we'll count this as a clearing turn here to the right. And as long as we're below 1,500 feet, chat, we can go into this part of the sound because we'll be below the islip class Charlie. So let's see, is there anything good on the ground that we can poke at? Look at this little circle lake right here. This little inlet of Circle Lake. We're going to use that for our turns around a point, chat. So that's going to be our reference point for the turns around a point. And so what I'm going to do is you want to start in the downwind leg. So I'm actually going to fly out to the north here a little bit before heading back south so that you start in the downwind leg. And then the goal is we're going to do a 360-degree turn, a couple of them, around this point. And we want to maintain the same distance from the point during the entire turn around. And so when you have the wind at your back, a tailwind, and when you're downwind, that's going to be your steepest bank because you're going faster, and if you're going faster, your radius is wider, so you need a steeper bank to keep that same radius. And as we start to get out of the wind and get more into a headwind, that's when we'll be in our shallowest bank because you're going the slowest, and the slower you're going, the tighter the radius. And so the idea is you want to see that you can start to notice that difference in wind to be able to maintain that same radius from the point that you select at all times. So you're able to kind of, go shallow or go steeper to maintain that constant radius. And so since the wind is going to be starting at our tail here, going south for the most part, we're going to call this our downwind. And I don't want to get too close to the point because I want to be able to see it while we're doing this. So I'm going to fly out just a little bit more here before we consider it a starting point. And then we're going to try and maintain a constant radius around that point the whole way around. This is Homebrand. Thank you for the Apollo. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in today. Alright, this looks good. So what we're going to do here, chat, is we're going to go and get to a south heading. This is probably still even a little bit close, but we're going to make it work. So here's our point. Now I'm going to do my best to maintain my constant radius around this point. So you're going to see me looking out my left wing probably more than I'm going to be looking at the gauges. Every now and then I'll let it look in just to make sure I'm not climbing or descending like that right there. And again, starting with our steepest bank, as we start to come out of the wind, you can see I'm getting pushed away from it maybe just a little bit. So I keep that bank going, and I'm just trying to maintain a constant radius around this little circle lake right here is what I'm trying to use as my reference point to maintain a constant radius. So you can see I'm starting to get a little bit more into a headwind now. So I'm slowly bringing that bank out. Again, goal is to try and keep that same constant radius around the point the whole way around. I'm actually getting a little bit further away from it, so I'm going to tighten up that bank here. Let's get a little bit closer. I'm also having a bit of a hard time maintaining my altitude. Let's get some more nose down trim in there to kind of help with that. There's about our radius that we want to hold. But yeah, with these maneuvers, you always start with the tailwind. You always want to start on the downwind leg. That is correct. And you can expect a little bit of drift. It's really hard to do this perfectly where you actually keep the same distance. But as long as you're within a reasonable distance to the target for the instructor, or in the case of a check ride, your check airman or DP or what have you, then as long as you're showing that you kind of get the general idea of being able to keep the same radius around the point, you're going to be good to go. And again, you want to maintain that within plus or minus 100 feet on the altitude and plus or minus 10 knots on the airspeed, which I think I've got the airplane stabilized out a lot better now. Maybe a little bit too much nose down trim now. So I'll just trim it up a tiny bit. Doing a pretty decent job, actually. Again, I'm doing better on stream, thankfully, than I was doing when I was practicing this earlier this afternoon. When I did some of these practice runs earlier this afternoon, I was doing pretty terrible. But I would say that I'm actually doing quite well, thankfully, in the stream. As good as I can for the sim, because the sim, again, not perfectly realistic. But, you know, it's not terrible either, chat. So here we go. Now I'm going to do the steepest bank because we got that wind at our back. You can see how it's slowly pushing us away with the radius, so I've got that steeper bank in. Trying to maintain my altitude as best as I can while maintaining that constant radius around the point. And when I get to my north heading, I'm going to roll out of this, and we're going to set up for the next maneuver, which is going to be S-turns. Usually you do it across the road, but because we have a whole shoreline here that kind of goes pretty much east to west, we're going to be able to use that shoreline for our S-turns. I'm going to see if I can't pull something up for S-turns. See a little diagram to show you guys. Here we go, view image. So there we go. Gonna get that set up on the second monitor. Pretty good job, I would say, of keeping my altitude and the radius. So I'm gonna roll out here, and we're gonna real quick talk about the next maneuver, like I said, which is gonna be these S-turns across the road. So same idea, chat. We're gonna start with the wind at our back. So we're gonna start on the downwind leg, and we're gonna go wings level across the beach here. We're going to use our beach, again, the shoreline, because it's pretty much east-west, as our road, if you will. And you start with your steepest bank because, again, you have that wind at your back. You're going to have the highest turning radius but your fastest speed. As you start to roll out and the wind is a little bit less at your back, you're going to go to a slower bank, and you're at your shallowest bank when you're headwind crossing the road. And you do the same thing in reverse. You go from shallow to steepest bank. And the idea here is you want to start wings level over the road, do a constant turn, end up perfectly wings level as you roll out across the road facing this way, do the right turn, and end up perfectly wings level. If you roll in too soon or you roll out too late and you don't have the perfect across the road, then you weren't doing the maneuver properly. So let's see how well I'm going to be able to do this in the sim. So I'm going to go ahead, like I said, and use the shoreline here, and we'll do a left turn to start. So I'm going to get my head pointing south, start wings level, cross the shoreline, and then we'll do the left turn. Try and keep it so that we are turning and getting our wings level perfectly timed across the shoreline. Again, as best that we can. Let's get this little guy out of the way. And again, the goal here is to maintain altitude while also doing this maneuver. So you need to stay within plus or minus 100 feet of your altitude. So you're going to have to make those pitch adjustments when you have the steeper banks. You never want to exceed 45 degrees of bank when you're doing this maneuver. So here we go. Coming up wings level over the shoreline. Right here. Boom. And now we'll start our turn to the left. And again, in theory, this should be our steepest bank because our wind's going to be at our back. And we're going to slowly shallow out the bank as we get closer to the shoreline. Again, I'm checking back in, checking my altitude while I'm doing this. And the goal here is to end up rolling wings level perfectly timed when you're crossing the shore. And it has to be smooth. You can't just suddenly snap your wings level when you're crossing the shoreline. The idea is it needs to be kind of like a smooth transition, like you planned it the whole way, and not just snap back to wings level when you happen to be crossing over the shoreline here or the road or whatever reference point you're using. So let's see. I'm slowly getting my wings back to level, and let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Maybe just a tiny bit early, and now I start the shallow roll into the right, and it's going to get steeper again as that wind starts to get behind us, pushing us towards the right side here now. Astro Dubes, thanks for coming in today. So again, you see now we're starting to get that tailwind here again, so I gotta steepen that bank so that we get back to the shoreline, and we're gonna be able to turn wings level when we get back to the shoreline. And again, not terrible, maybe a little late. Now let's do one more set here. We'll go to the left, and we'll do one more here. S-turn across the road. In this case, S-turn across the beach. Again, this is, I'll be honest with you, chat, going way, 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 way better than I was expecting with, in terms of like the physics and the sim character, you know, all the simisms and different things like that. I'm actually, I'm pretty impressed with the sim. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm actually pretty impressed with how the sim is handling these maneuvers the way that it is, so that you can actually kind of get a pretty good, idea of what's going on. I don't know why your message got deleted. I'll have to look at that. But all right, coming across, so we'll turn to the right here. Oh, our mod Candy Monster has made an error. Boo-boo, it looks like. Accidents happen. Again, we're trying to maintain that altitude. Steepen up that bank here now that we've got the wind at our back. I might have made this one a little bit too tight, so I'm going to have to go with a bit of a steeper bank here. You don't want to exceed 45 degrees. Coming across the shoreline. About wings level. I think I was a little early there. Alright, you guys get the idea. So there's your S-turn. So that's it really in terms of just basic private pilot maneuvers. We've done our slow flight. We've done the power off stalls. We've done the power on stalls. We did steep turns, which I think went really well. We did the simulated engine out. We've done turns around a point, and we've done S-turns. Those are really the core private pilot maneuvers that you will, do for your check ride. Obviously, you'll also have unusual altitudes. They'll make you do some hood time and different things like that. Fly to a VOR, you'll do flight planning. So there's more to it than just those maneuvers. But in terms of just the basic private pilot maneuvers, there you have it. So real quick, because that actually went a lot faster than I was expecting, I'm going to let you guys in the chat decide. Is there anything that you guys want to see me do again in terms of just those maneuvers? Slow flight, power off stall, power on stall, steep turns, emergency. We're not going to do a simulated engine out again, but turns around a point, S-turns. For the guys that maybe came in a little bit later, is there something in particular that maybe you want to see in terms of private pilot maneuvers that to run again? Like I said, because I did the slow flight and the stalls early on, so maybe if you miss those, if you want to see those again, let me know, just so you guys can kind of, I guess, see how it reacts in the sim. It's entirely up to you, chat. What do you want to do? Vertical stall. I don't know what you mean by vertical stall. I did power off and power on stall. It's just, again, these are just straight by the book private pilot maneuvers and not doing anything kind of crazy. No chandelles, no lazy eights, no eights on pylon, because those are all commercial maneuvers. Just keeping it private pilot maneuvers. Because honestly, I don't know if I could do a chandelle or a lazy eight in the sim right now. The private pilot maneuvers, God, I can't speak, are easy. The chandelle is a commercial maneuver, and I mean, I could try it, but I probably would do a horrible job because it just, that's a more difficult maneuver. I would need way more practice before I could kind of get that nailed down again. Nick Rezel says steep turns. Alright, I can go do more steep turns. What we're going to do is we're going to climb up to 2,500 feet so we have a safe altitude to do those steep turns. Good Fixin' says power off stalls. No, Lazy 8's is just it's actual commercial maneuver. That Lazy 8 is the most complicated commercial maneuver. There's absolutely zero chance I'm going to attempt that on the stream tonight, guys. I'm not going to lie to you. There's no way I can do it properly. I would need to kind of probably be retaught how to do a Lazy 8 before I could try and show you in the sim, just being honest. But yeah, okay. I'll do some steep turns and then power off stalls. So tell you what, the power off stall I'm just going to do first because that's going to be the easiest one to set up for right now. First thing, of course, what we're going to do here is we're going to get the airplane stable here at our 2,500 feet, and we're going to do a 180-degree clearing turn to the right. Make sure we still got no traffic out here that we're going to potentially run into. And we'll set up for a... yeah, no problem. That's what, like I said, it's whatever you guys want to see. So we can set up. If that case, we'll do slow flight first for Tim Alien 24. We'll do slow flight first. We'll roll right from slow flight into a power off stall, and then we'll do some steep turns. So let me go ahead and finish this clearing turn and kind of get myself stabilized and ready to go here. Short and soft field landing. So I do plan on going to Bayport to do a soft field landing, Nick. And a soft field takeoff. I can attempt maybe to do a short field landing on my final approach back into Farmingdale. I don't know how well I'm going to be able to do it in the sim or not, but I can definitely give it a try. Alright, here we go. We're on our east heading. We're going to reduce the power about 1700 RPM, and we're going to slowly bring the flaps in, get configured here. We'll also turn the carb heat on, which I just did with the push of the button on my yoke. A little cheater there. We're just trying to hold our altitude and our heading for now. Again, one of the things I didn't like in the sim with the slow flight is that you almost need full power, unfortunately, to maintain altitude. It doesn't really handle the when you start to get behind the power curve very well in the sim. So it's going to be almost impossible to do climbs, but I can do turns and descents, and you'll notice that I'm almost full power pretty much to try and maintain an altitude when we do the slow flight in the sim. But here we go. Get the flaps in slowly. And I'm going to go right for the horn. Get that nose trimmed up. We're going to need a lot of that nose trimmed up. Maintaining that east heading as best we can here. Again, I'm waiting for the horn. There's the horn. So I'm going to get my power in, and I know because I've done this already, I'm going to need pretty much full power here to maintain my altitude. So there we go. Come on, airplane, ride that horn. What are we doing? There we go. I want to ride that horn. Alright, we'll do a left turn here, so clear to the left. Try and keep a standard rate turn. Need a little bit more right rudder to keep that ball centered. It's going a lot smoother now this second time through than it did at the beginning of the stream. Definitely starting to get a feel for the airplane in terms of how it feels in the sim. Captain Timothy, thanks for coming in today. Again, I'm sorry I'm not paying too much attention to the chat, guys, because I am doing my best to kind of focus on these maneuvers, and they are pretty intensive. Turn back to the right here. I'm doing a much better job of maintaining altitude for sure, and a standard rate turn. I was struggling maintaining the standard rate turn earlier, but I'm doing a much better job of maintaining the standard rate turn here in slow flight this time around. So now we just pull the power back, do a little descent, a couple hundred feet. Again, you can climb, descend, do all that while in a slow flight, and you want to maintain that heading. And maintaining that right rudder. I've got my foot pretty significantly pushed on the right rudder here, so it definitely, these kind of, when you're doing the private pilot training, it's a lot of leg day. When you're doing these slow flight and the stalls. Alright, so pretty much since we're already configured for it, I'm just going to go right into a power off stall, chat. So we're going to lower the nose here a little bit, because I do want to have myself get to more of a normal approach speed between 50 and 60 knots before pulling the power and pitching as if we're flaring to set up for this power off stall. So, but otherwise the airplane is configured as it needs to be. 2300 is going to be our altitude to start. And like I said, I'm just going to go right into the power off stall here. Again, pitching just like we're trying to flare. There's the horn. There's a little bit of a buffet. There's a stall. So power full. That pitch down. Carb heat out. First notch of flaps comes up. Positive rate. Second notch flaps can come up. Don't want to get yourself to a secondary stall. Climb on out. 60 knots. Flaps all the way up. Climb away. And that's power off stall. That was, again, the second time through these maneuvers, Chad. I'm doing obviously a lot better now that I've got a little bit of practice in me, but that was probably, that was a really clean power off stall. So again, I'm super impressed by how this sim is handling it. Now again, this is a modded version of the default 152. It's the JPLogistics modded Cessna 152, and it's handling these maneuvers very well. It was way better than I was expecting it to handle it, Chad. So this is just the standard 152 there, Captain Timothy, but again, modded version of it. JPLogistics. If someone in the chat, Eric Flight, if you're still in the chat, potentially if you have the link for that, if you could put it in, or if someone can get the link for that JPLogistics 152 mod, can put it in the chat for everyone else. I don't know why I'm getting a phone call right now, but we're going to go ahead and ignore that. Very, very, very pleased with how the airplane is handling in the sim doing these maneuvers. Alright, so someone also now wanted to see steep turns. So we're on this 270 heading. We'll call it our clearing turn that we've done here to get to this heading. So I've got everything is set. 2,500 feet is the altitude we'll maintain. We'll do the left turn first, 45 degrees bank all the way, and then we'll do the right turn afterwards. So we are clear to the left, rolling in past 30 degrees, get that power up a little bit, maintain that 45 degree bank. Got to bring the nose back, a little bit of back pressure to keep that altitude, not too much so that we start to lose it all here. A little bit of back pressure, trying to hold that 45 degree bank. About 30 degrees prior to our west heading, we're going to start to slowly and smoothly roll out the airplane, get our power back once we come through 30 degrees again. So right here, pull it out, power back. Don't let it kind of bump up on you there at the end. Pretty close. We'll clear to the right, and we'll go right into our right steep turn. I think Delilah just barged into the room behind me, chat, but I'm a little bit focused on the maneuver, so she's going to have to wait. Hi, Delilah. I can feel your whiskers tickling me, but you got to wait because I'm doing a maneuver. Sorry, puppy. And you're almost kind of making your nose slice through that horizon. If you're making that nose slice through the horizon, that's going to be where you're kind of maintaining your appropriate altitude. So I did struggle a little bit at the beginning here with the altitude, but we're getting it now. 30 degrees, bring that power back. And roll out on a west heading. Boom. Steep turns. Yes, that's it, Kenny Monster. Thank you. That is the correct link for this version of the 152 that I'm using, the modded version of the default 152. You download that and you put it right into your community folder and you're good to go. Alright, but there you go. A little bit more steep turn action for you guys. That was, like I said, I'm impressed by how well it is handling these maneuvers in the sim. I will not lie. I was expecting it to be a lot sloppier, a lot worse. It did help maybe that I practiced this a little bit this afternoon before coming onto the stream, so I was able to get somewhat of a feel for it prior, but I also feel like I've definitely gotten better with the maneuvers as the stream has gone on. So, alright, before I go and make Beach Jet Guy, again, I'm sticking with the private maneuvers tonight because I could probably, there's no way that I just straight up I'll be honest with you guys, I just don't remember 100% how to do the chandelles or the lazy 8s or the 8s on pylon. I would need to actually go and like read through and review it, and I only read through and reviewed all the private pilot maneuvers for the stream tonight. So I just don't think there's any way I could do a chandelle with any kind of accuracy at the moment. So sorry to disappoint, but is there any other of those private maneuvers that you guys want to see me do before I go and make a landing in Bayport? You know what, just for the heck of it, I'm going to do a power on stall one more time, chat. That's what we'll do. We'll do one more power on stall, and then I'm going to go and make the landing into Bayport, and then we'll depart out of Bayport and head back to Farmingdale. Captain Timothy. Alright, yeah, I can do turns around a point again, too. We can do that. So I'm going to go ahead first, though, and do power on stall. So again, let me make sure, did I turn my carb heat off, or is it still on? Let's turn the carb heat off. And we're just going to slow up, flaps all the way up, and we're just going to get to where we would be normal climbs, you know, VX or VY, we'll go 60 knots, full power, we'll pitch up until we get to the accelerated stall here. So right about here, we'll call it good, get that right rudder ready to go, because the airplane is going to have that P factor. Pitch up, there's a stall horn. There's a little bit of the brake in the stall. Get that nose down, brake the stall, and we slowly bring the nose back up and we climb on out. And I actually did a pretty damn good job of maintaining the heading on that time, even with that little bit of left brake on the power on stall. Rectangular patterns with a good wind correction is nice to watch too. Yeah, I agree. I'm probably not going to do the rectangular patterns, only because I'm actually going to go and do some traffic patterns at Farmingdale to end the stream. So I'm not going to do it in terms of the visual maneuvers, but we'll go do some turns around a point here. Let me go find something again that we can use on the ground for turns around a point. Got to descend to get to 1,000 feet. And then we're going to have to fly out into the sound a little bit, or into the bay a little bit, excuse me. And then make sure we come back towards the south, because the wind is about 330, 340. So we have to start with the wind at our back, with a downwind or a tailwind, if you were. So we'll fly out into the Great South Bay here. Get down to 1,000 feet so we don't bust the Islip Clash Charlie while we're doing it. And we'll find something on the ground to use as our reference point. Turn around and start the turns around a point. And this time I'll just do 1 360 degree around the point, and then we'll make our way into Bayport Aerodrome. Which is going to be a snow-covered Bayport Aerodrome. And we're just going to have to deal with that simism. I don't think I'm in the same spot as before, so I don't see that lake. Is there anything else that's really prominent that sticks out? There's this house right here that's right near this inlet. I'm going to use that, I think, as my reference point for these turns around a point, chat. Because even if I can't see the house very well, I can see that little bit of inlet that's there on the coast. So we'll use that as our reference for these turns around a point here. Again, I need to get out into the bay first to start with a tailwind so that I'm in the downwind leg. So it's going to take me a moment here just to kind of get a descent going to 1,000 feet, and then get on the other side of this, of course, because we got the headwind right now, before we actually start the maneuver. So bear with me. We'll also consider that 180 degree turn back to the south, our clearing turn. Going to use this time wisely now to try and get this airplane trimmed out at 2200 RPM, so have a much easier time doing this turns around a point with the altitude. There's never a lighthouse around when you need one. Yeah, the sim unfortunately doesn't put like capture monument or anything like that to be able to kind of use. So again, we'll just use that little building with the inlet right there. It's visible enough that it will be usable for us. I'm just trying to get the airplane to get trimmed out here at our power setting, so that we'll be good to go once we start the maneuver without having to use too much forward or back pressure or too much trim back and forth to kind of keep it stabilized. And And again, we'll also, like I said, call this our clearing turn. Accidentally putting some nose down pressure while I'm doing this clearing turn here. I'm going to keep that in mind when I'm doing this, because I'm going to be spending a lot of time looking out that left wing, more so than I am going to be looking inside the cockpit, because I'm trying to keep that radius around the point. So again, the maneuver hasn't started yet. I'm going to start going south so that we're on the downwind. I don't want to get too close to the point either, so let me do this real quick. Alright, once the point comes off our wing here, we'll call it good. And we will call this the beginning of the maneuver. So now we'll try and keep this constant radius around that building, while also making sure we maintain our altitude. I have a tendency to pull back on the stick more than I should. And again, that's something you have a feel. You can actually feel these things when you're flying the real airplane versus in the sim. So that lack of feel does make this a little bit more challenging doing these kind of maneuvers. But I would say I'm doing a fairly good job of keeping the radius so far around this building here. Be getting blown away a little bit here at this moment because of that wind starting to push on us now. I would say pretty good so far, though. Captain Martinez, I am on the South Shore of Long Island, right now over the Great South Bay, doing some turns around a point over Fire Island. Honestly, that was way better than the first one as well. And like I said, I was just going to do the one turn, so boom, boom, boom. Carbuncle 1969, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Thanks for coming in today. Guys, let's go ahead and go into Bayport Aerodrome and make a landing over there. EKT, thank you for the follow as well. Thank you for coming in today. That was a pretty solid turnaround a point. The longer that this session has gone on, this stream, and me flying this airplane right now, the better I've gotten at it for sure. It's you know, practice makes perfect, and I'm starting to get a really good feel for the airplane and for the sim now. That the more I kind of get involved in doing it right here. So thank you so much, Captain Timothy Levoft, however you say that. Thank you for the follow. Appreciate all the follows coming in, guys. Thanks for coming in today. Thanks for being here. I hope you guys are enjoying the basic private pilot maneuvers that I've been doing. And now we're going to go into Bayport Aerodrome. 2-3 November, chat. Let's see. I'm going to real quick pull up Google Maps on the other screen and show you guys while trying to fly the airplane at the same time. So this could get a little tricky. I'm going to show you how I'm going to enter runway 36 at Bayport. Runway 36 at Bayport because of the wind. So we'll discuss the 36 entry here as soon as I can get it up. Alright, here we go. So what we're going to do, chat, is we're going to come up over the shoreline. There's some big white house that the sim doesn't portray too well. So just roughly in this area between the two inlets here, we're going to fly inbound. Make sure we're on the west side of the high school here. We'll fly over here. When we hit the railroad tracks, we're going to cut in, and that's going to be basically our left base to then turn final to runway 36 for the landing at Bayport. And then departing, when we take off, we're going to take off here. We got to stay inside of Sunrise Highway, and we'll follow the river and the lakes out back to the ocean. We got to do all that below 700 feet. So I'm going to start that descent now to get below 700 feet, and we're going to do that entry and departure into and out of Bayport. Who else with the follow while I was busy talking? Tim Allen 24, thank you for the follow as well. Appreciate those follows, guys. Am I using FloorFlight? No. That thing that I just pulled up was literally just Google Maps, but I'm not using FloorFlight or anything like that while I'm doing the sim here. I'm not that fancy of a simmer, and I just realized I'm not. This is not the inlet. It's over here is the White House somewhere. I think roughly this, we'll call this right here about where we want to enter. So I'm gonna go and fly this way. Bayport traffic, Cessna 124 Mike Charlie over the shoreline for runway 36, Bayport traffic. Make sure I make my radio calls in case someone happens to be at Bayport while we're doing this. I doubt it, but you'd never know, chat. You'd never know. Could be some other Virtuous A Flying Club member potentially doing some patterns at Bayport. Don't know. I'll talk more about Virtual USA Flying Club here in a second, guys, when we land at Bayport, because I'm going to need a quick breather after those maneuvers. So where is the high school? I think the high school is... I think this is the high school right here. It's covered in snow, so it's hard to tell, so I want to be west of that. So let me go a little bit to the left here. And we'll follow the train tracks in for that left base for 36. Oh yeah, FloorFlight's definitely a good thing, but I'm not that fancy when I'm doing the sim stuff, so. Get the flaps the second notch. We're going to get the carb heat on. I think that's supposedly supposed to be the high school off our right here, chat. Close enough, I guess. Here comes the train track. Covered in snow, and Bayport's covered in snow. Normally we wouldn't land on Bayport if it was covered in snow like this, but we're going to improvise for the sake of the stream. So this is our left downwind. You can see the runway out over there off the left front. The flaps full. Slow to our 60 knots. And I'll do my best to try and make this soft landing. I do have the landing rate meter on, but it's a little late probably to make a guess. And if you want, you can real quick get a number in. Here's the final Bayport traffic for my Charlie's final 36 Bayport traffic. Hard to tell where the actual stretch is because it's covered in snow. So when we get a little bit closer, you're going to notice that cones are going to start popping up. This is going to be a little bit awkward, but we'll do our best we can here as starts to populate in. There's some cones. I think the runway is just to right here. I think this is the runway right here, so we'll go ahead and pull the power back. Try and make this soft. Minus 117, that's not too bad. I'm keeping that nose off as long as I can, chat. Keep that nose pressure off because of the grass so that it doesn't dig in. Kind of let the airplane roll out on its own here. Maybe just a little bit of braking. Yeah, that's pretty decent. So that's actually an application for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020. It's called GEES. G-E-E-S. So if you Google GEES for Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, you'll get that kind of landing rate application so that you can see your landing rate in the sim. It's actually a really nice tool to have. We'll taxi on over, park it real quick because I'm going to use the restroom real quick, chat, before we then depart out of Bayport. We're going to fly back to Farmingdale and do a couple of touch and goes in the pattern over there before we call it good. But I do just need to use the restroom real quick and take a leak. Oh, that is Titanium Druid's number, you're right. Well, I guess we'll call it as him winning. And you chose a different number today, Candy Monster, look at you. You didn't use your normal 173. I don't know whether to be impressed or disappointed with that. But, alright, park and brake set. Chad, I just have to use the little boys' room real quick. I apologize. I'll be right back. In the meantime, I'll give you a nice little outside view here. The snow and the sun. Hang tight. I'll be right back. Alright, chat. Quick pee break is over. I like this livery, but I do miss having all the other liveries from that old Cessna 152X mod that disappeared with this. I do like this kind of blue-silver look that it's got going on. It's really shiny and nice. But alright, like I said, now we're going to go and do that departure out of Bayport, which I'll run through one more time. We're going to take off 3-6, so we're just going to line up on the runway. We're going to take off. We're going to come out here. We're going to start a turn. Do not cross Sunrise Highway. Start the turn, come out over the Sans Souci Lakes, join the Lotus Lake, join the river out here, and take us back out. And we have to do all of that below 700 feet. We can only climb above 700 feet once we get out of the shoreline right there. So that's going to be the key, is to maintain that altitude, as well as, you know, doing the maneuver to get out of Bayport. So let's go ahead and do that. Probably help if I took the park brake off so that we can actually move. Hyro in Hong Kong, thanks for coming in today. I do occasionally suffer from some frame drops, unfortunately, because my internet sometimes sucks. So if the stream is dropping a little bit, I do apologize for that. Or if it's lagging, buffering, it should hopefully stabilize here at some point. It was going pretty good for a while, but every now and then my freaking Spectrum internet kind of craps out on me. And it just kind of does this. So hopefully, like I said, it'll level out here in just a second, chat. I apologize. C. Georgial, thank you for coming in today. So you know what, chat? I'm gonna hang tight here until we can kind of get the stream to stabilize a bit, because it should eventually stabilize again before we kind of make our move here. So let's hang tight for a second, see if we can't get the sim to sort itself out. Again, bear with me, chat, while we figure this out. Hyro in Hong Kong, thank you for the follow. I appreciate it. Even with me having these stream issues, appreciate the follow. Yeah, it's just Spectrum Internet. Come on, level out. Usually it starts to level out on its own here. It's taking its sweet, sweet time. Someone in my house might be using a little too much interweb while I'm trying to stream here. Bear with me, chat. Again, I'm trying to diagnose the issues here. Actually, it may very well be a Twitch thing, chat, because I just did a freaking speed test and my upload speed is fine. So this may very well just be the Twitch server is having a little bit of a rough day. Now all of a sudden my bitrate is through the roof. So let's see if it'll start to level out here. Let's see. Smoke Steve, I have G's downloaded but can't seem to figure out how it works. Does it just start running by itself? No, it doesn't start running by itself. Smoke Steve, you need to activate it. You need to. I run it as admin. So I would start the sim, have Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 running first, and then run G's as an admin, and that should get it going for you properly. That's the way that I run it. Alright, did we stabilize here, chat? I think we stabilized here. Hopefully we've got it stabilized here and we can get back on track. Just when I thought I had it, it's back out again. So, all right, we're gonna move though. We are gonna keep moving along here, and hopefully it starts to kind of level out on its own at some point here. I gotta try and find the actual. There's the marking right there. I'm looking for. That's the actual runway. So I'll line up on the actual runway here. And maybe someday the stream will actually work the way it should. Anyways, let's go ahead and do a takeoff out of Bayport. And maybe you guys will be able to see it, maybe you won't, depending on how the stream decides to buffer or not. But let's go ahead and get moving. I can't wait too much longer. Bayport traffic, access 124 my Charlie is departing runway 36, Bayport traffic. So yeah, I'm keeping that nose pressure off. You see how I'm almost kind of doing a wheelie now, so that I keep it off on the soft field landing. When it comes up, now I kind of get myself in ground effect, pick up a little bit of speed, and I can fly right on out. And we want to make sure we don't cross Sunrise Highway, so I'm going to start this turn here. Go find the lakes. There's the lake. We're right over it, pretty much right here. Perfect. That was actually a very nicely done turn out of Bayport, I would say. That'd be one thing if you guys can actually see it or not, depending on if the stream's working, but we'll follow the lakes right on out. Again, we got to stay below 700 feet. Looks like New York Approach on 2812 is online now. My buddy Paresh, he'll help us out at Farmingdale, so I'm going to get that frequency ready to go. .125. He'll be the one we're talking to get the services over at Farmingdale Republic. Look at how the wind is pushing me, chat. You can see that I'm doing a crab here to maintain along the river. Going out to the ocean here as that wind is pushing me. That crosswind is pushing me from right to left. So the wind is definitely still coming from the northwest. And wind 310 at 8, it's saying at Farmingdale. So we're going to be landing runway 32. Probably be straight into Farmingdale. Alright, we're back over the water, which means now we can climb as much as we want up to 1,500, because we still got to be below the Islip class Charlie. So I'm just going to climb to 1,100 feet, which is the traffic pattern altitude anyway at Republic, so we'll just climb to 1,100 feet. Good Fixins, thank you for the 4-month resub. I appreciate it, my man. Thank you for coming in today. I really appreciate your support. And all the guys that followed, everyone that's supporting the stream this evening, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming in today. Appreciate that resubscription. Arctic Turn, thanks for coming in today. Again, I apologize if the stream has some buffers, chat. It is not my fault. It is a little bit of Twitch and a little bit of slow internet that is causing it. I guess whatever's going on in New York, their servers are all messed up or bogged down or what have you, so they're struggling. But we have done some private pilot maneuvers. We did a landing at Bayport, and now we're going back to Farmingdale Republic to go into the traffic pattern, do a couple touch and goes. Thank you, Jet Slinger. My buddy Antoine, you are the first one to reach the 12-month resubscription. Thank you so much, my buddy. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for coming in today. Again, you are the very first 1-year resub. That's awesome, man. Thank you so much. Nick, to answer your question, it's the Islip class Charlie that is to the north of Sunrise Highway, which is why you need to stay south of Sunrise Highway at all times, in and out of Bayport. Again, chat and stream is going to be very delayed for me, chat. I apologize because of the issues that I was having with the frames. Kind of got to bear with me on that. But right now what I'm doing is I'm flying out towards the Twin Span Bridge. And we're going to go inbound to Farmingdale. I'm going to talk to the approach controller. Let's switch to his frequency. 128.25 or 128.125 is going to be covering Farmingdale on that frequency.
North FedEx 4901 Heavy, not clear across 22 right at Yankee Alpha.
So we'll tune and listen to him, get ready to go in Farmingdale.
You follow the Alpha till Golf and then cross runway 22 right at Golf.
Okay, so you'd like me to cross at Golf and then proceed to 31 right on Yankee?
FedEx 4901, I gave you runway 31 left, sir. So,
Copy 31 left, I understand now, my proceeding vehicle.
So from here you will taxi via Alpha Golf Zulu and cross runway 22 right.
Alpha Golf Zulu cross 22 right.
Rouge
Delta
340 with
1305
you,
miles
we
from Maldives, turn
descending
left
to
heading
8,000.
turn left heading 340.
Alright, this
maintain
frequency is
3000
quite
until
busy.
established on the localizer. Cleared ILS runway 31 right approach.
Delta 1307, can you take entry?
Okay, stand by. Canada 2720, turn right heading 260.
Let's go out towards Captree. We gotta give this controller a little bit more time because he sounds pretty busy. Our buddy Fresh here, dealing with some
307, turn right heading
not very
turn left
good
heading
responding pilots at the moment.
Heading 340, Delta 1307.
Rouge 340 with you, descending to 8,000.
Turn right heading 130 now. United 985, turn right heading 190, descend maintain 3000.
Right heading 190, United 985.
Delta 1307, 5
No,
miles
Eric,
from
it's not your
Maldives,
internet.
gliding
It's
340,
I think it's
descend
Twitch
maintain
because my
3000
internet was
until
working
established
fine
on the
too,
localizer,
but it's
cleared
just
ILS
constantly
runway 31
buffering.
right
So I don't know if Twitch is having an issue with their New York server.
Clear ILS 31 right approach, gliding 340 direct.
But it's just not working as well as it should right now.
Canada 2720, are you on this frequency? Canada 2720.
Rouge 340 with you.
Canada 2720, turning on final, runway 31.
Canada 2720, it was visual runway 31 left. It was not an ILS runway 31 left anyways. Okay. 24093, turn left heading 170.
Speedway 1 heavy, ready to taxi Alpha 31 left.
Speedway 1 heavy.
It's disappointing that
taxi right alpha,
this bad right now with the stream because of Twitch. But it's not my internet, chat, because I just checked and my internet's working fine. So there's something wrong with the Twitch server, I believe, that's causing the issues right now, whether it's too busy or what have you. But
United 985, 5 miles from T-Turbo, turn right heading 190, maintain 3000 until established on the localizer, clear ILS runway 22 left approach.
190, 3000, clear left to left, United 985.
New York Center, JetBlue 1493 here at 3000 feet.
also, this frequency is way too busy.
Left heading 130, climb and maintain 7000.
Left heading 130, climb and maintain 7,000.
Center American 844, I'm sorry, approach American 844 at 10,000.
Oh, and suddenly the snow just disappeared, chat. You see that?
Rouge 340
Out of
with you,
nowhere, the
descending
snow
to
is just
6,000.
gone.
New York approach, Delta 1507, established ILS 31 right.
Delta 1307, wind 320 at 14 gust 23, runway 31 right, clear to land.
31 right, Delta 1307.
Korean 81 heavy, 12 miles from Maldives, turn left heading 340, descend maintain 3000 until established on the localizer, cleared ILS runway 31 right approach.
Okay, heading up 340 down to 3000. And I thought we got 31 left instead of 31 right, so Korean Air 08.
Korean 81 heavy, okay. Clear for ILS runway 31 left approach.
Or the ILS 31 left, Korean Air 08.
W49,
397, we're ready to
climb and
taxi.
maintain 1 to 12,000.
Rouge 340, radio check.
You're coming loud and clear. W1493, proceed direct wavy, climb and maintain 1 to 12,000.
Roger that, proceed direct to AV, climb and maintain 12,000, JetBlue 1493.
Yeah, I don't know what to do to improve it, honestly. It's just
Frontier 397, we're ready for taxi.
not working very well. Also, we're having a hard time getting into
Frontier
Farmingdale, so we
397,
might just end up going
left
straight in for a
taxi
full
via
stop
Sierra.
if we can ever get a word in edgewise.
We're gonna need runway 24.
Okay, runway 24 taxi via Sierra Echo, cross runway 33 left, hold short runway 33 right.
Taxi via Sierra, cross runway 33 left, and hold. You said hold or cross 33 right?
Hold short runway 33 right.
Hold short 33 right, Frontier 397.
American 844 New York approach. Good evening. Expect expressway visual 31 approach. Descend and maintain 8000 and Liberty altimeter 3005.
Alright, expect the expressway visual 31 approach down to 8,000 on altimeter 3005, the American 844.
Approach Skyline 3962 Delta, request frequency change.
Number 396
So Dave Grimy 9, I already did a bunch of steep turns earlier on in the stream. So if you want, you can run back the video for the stream. If you go to my channel and you go to videos, you can go back to the start of the stream. You can run it back and you can see those steep turns that I did earlier if you want, because I did already do those earlier on in the stream. The full video will also be put on my YouTube channel as well.
W4093, are you on this frequency, sir?
JPL4093 is here.
W4093 Wavy is heading 140 from the location.
Heading 140, JPL4093.
Approach Cessna 124, Mike Charlie.
Center 125.32 now.
Say again for JPL4093.
W4093, contact New York Center 125.
Having issues with Microsoft Flight Sim 2020, are you, Eric? Right, that's annoying. Sorry to hear that, man.
1493, sorry.
Speedbird 1, we fly the Scorpio departure Yankee transition, wind 320 at 14, gust 23, runway C1 left, clear for takeoff. United 985, wind 310 at 9, gust 17, runway 22 left, clear to land.
To left, 6 left, United 985.
Your approach Cessna 124, Mike Charlie.
Runway 33 right.
Sorry, blocked.
Cessna 124, Mike Charlie, near approach.
Cessna 123, Mike Charlie, go ahead.
Yes, Cessna 124, Mike Charlie. We're over Captree, South Shore, Long Island, south of Republic. We'd like to head inbound to Republic for a full stop.
Number 124, Mike Charlie, any runway you request?
32 would be preferred.
Roger. Number 124, Mike Charlie, runway 24, fly straight in, and Republic altimeter 3006.
Straight in for 32, so that's the 124, Mike Charlie. There we go, chap. Finally got the word in edgewise.
Rose 340A firm.
340, fly heading 180, descend maintain 4000, expect expressway visual C1 approach.
Gee, nice for you. It could just be the New York server, because the New York server is the only one that I can really use since I live in New York. All the other ones are too far away to ever work properly, so it could just be the New York server is maybe having issues for Twitch. I don't know. Maybe it's my computer, maybe it's my internet.
397, we're holding short of runway.
Who knows?
Right. Taxi to the ramp via Charlie Alpha, cross runway 22 right.
New York approach, TWA 503 over here at JFK, requesting clearance to San Francisco with you and Charlie.
TWA 503 heavy clear to San Francisco International Airport. Scout for departure, Yankee transition, radar vector scaled and it's white, maintain 5000. Expect flight level 360, 10 minutes after departure. Departure frequency 128.1.
Where is Republic?
1014.
Where are you?
What was that departure?
2397, cross runway 33 right.
What was that departure for TWA 503 Heavy?
TWA 503 Heavy is the SCOR 4 departure, Sierra Kilo Oscar Romeo 4.
There's the airport right out here. Okay.
Roger,
Runway in
clear
sight.
to San Francisco, the SCOR 4 departure with the Yankee transition, climb maintain 50. Expect 360 10 minutes after departure frequency 128.12, squawk 1014 for TWA 503.
TW 503, read back correct, push and start, your discretion, expect runway 31 left for departure, advisory flight.
Roger, 31 left.
Green 081 landing clearance.
TWA 503, did you copy?
Yes, copy 31 left and push at my discretion, TWA 503.
Beaver 1 heavy, passengers 3,200, direct store.
Alright, so we straight in for 3-2, coming up over the inner shoreline. We're going to make this a full stop because this controller is incredibly busy, plus the fact that I'm having the issues with my internet, so just a combination of things here, and kind of get this closer to just being the end here.
Descend to main 4000, American 844.
Approach Green
We're running good for a
081
while, but the end of the stream has definitely fallen off because of the issues that we're having still, apparently, with my internet that I don't particularly understand.
Around last clear to land, Green 081.
Delta 613 New York approach, good evening, are you on this frequency?
Frontier 397, we're holding short of 32 right at MacArthur.
Frontier 397, I gave you the clearance to cross runway 33 right, cross runway 33 right at Echo.
Alright, let's see if we can at least get a decent landing. I'm not going to bother asking for a landing rate because you guys are so lag compared to what I'm doing that by the time it gets to you, you know, I will have already probably landed.
American 844, turn left heading 040, twin tanks, 12 o'clock, 10 miles, report in sight, descend and maintain 2,500.
Okay, descend and maintain 2,500, and we're just about to pass through the clouds here now.
So I got the carb heat on.
American 844.
First notch of flaps, we'll start getting set up.
Speedbird 1 heavy, turn left heading 050, climb and
for a landing.
maintain 17,000.
150, 1 heavy.
Speedbird 1 heavy, 050, turn left heading 050, climb and maintain 17,000.
Washington. Sorry, not Washington, Newark, planning ILS runway 1.
Blocked.
4 Mike Charlie is on final for 3-2.
Frontier 397, we're holding short of runway 24 at MacArthur.
4 Mike Charlie, wind 320 at 8, runway 32 clear to land.
3-2 clear to land, and we'll just taxi on our own because you're busy. 4 Mike Charlie, thanks.
Newark approach, good evening, Delta 613, flight level 080, Plover to arrival at Newark, planning ILS runway 11.
Route 340, turn right heading 250.